There we go. All right, there it goes. Okay, so Vernon Beck, you've got the stage. Please go ahead and share with us all your useful information. And if you want to introduce yourself briefly to our board.
Okay, and just before I start, I'm glad I see we have Batman on stage here. So problem
Yes.
solved. We've got a justice fighter right there. So interesting. So to get started here, yeah, my name is Vernon Beck. I've been an advocate for probably about 28 years. I'm a founder of Canada Court Watch. I'm a former journalist in family courts, held a press card, attended family court hearings to see the injustice in there, and founded an organization called Family Conflict Resolution Services that's geared on programs to resolve these issues that, of course, lead into parental alienation in a vast majority of the cases. I believe that finding solutions is going to be one of the key things to certainly stop parental alienation, because the more it's entrenched, the more difficult it becomes. And there are several various tools, what I call tools, that advocates can use to assist in the process to prevent alienation. And of course, it gets more harder as the alienation becomes more entrenched. So today I was, I guess, going to introduce one of the kind of programs that I've created with some other people here in Ontario that is designed to help advocates, to help parents who are in the more in the early stages of separation, as to how to prevent alienation from happening. Because I think the focus of your group is alienation, is it not?
It is, yes, but we're also like we want to also promote equal shared parenting to end the profit motive. So we're very comprehensive in the solution. Like there's not one thing that's going to fix this. Like so that's why you're invited here today, because you're part of the solution, right? So
Yeah, certainly I've been involved with the shared parenting movement from its infancy. I think back in around 1998, I certainly testified before the federal committee on back then for the sake of the children. I was one of the organizers of all the efforts that were put in back in 1998 toward the For Sake of the Children report. Are any of you people familiar with that federal committee? Yeah,
yes, I
well,
actually, yeah, I remember that. That was actually when I was in high school, so it was kind of over my head at the time. But I have shared news clippings from the results of that report, and I remember it was one of the most popular campaigns in Canadian history for a default of shared parenting. And the polls are still showing that a majority of Canadians want a default of shared parenting, and there should only be a custody dispute if there's proof of child abuse, right? And
yeah.
so, yeah, so I remember that, and I have news clippings that I've been sharing. And so and what's amazing to me is when you read those old news clippings from that time, like it sounds like there's been no progress, because the issues they're talking about are exactly identical to everything we're talking about right now. Like nothing's been resolved.
Well, without getting into, as I say, a lot of these things get into the politics. And I've
Mm.
always said people can advocate as much as they want for equal share parenting. And I'm a strong supporter of it, been involved since day one. And yes, I worked with Senator Ann Cools, and who was in the Senate at that time. I've had meetings with her. I've been in the Senate. So I was one of the people who were originally involved with the working group across Canada, and certainly I testified at that time. But as people have learned over the last 25 years, not much has changed. So there is strong support, but of course, every time there's an election, the people who are in federal politics change. And of course, a lot of the legislation at the case-by-case level is based on provincial legislation, some of the stuff. So, and even if equal shared parenting was legislated across Canada, the lawyers are always going to be able to say we need, it's got to be, there's got to be ways, because you can't just apply it equally. There's going to be, we need an escape clause where there's abuse or things like that. It's got to be conditional. So you could still have legislation, but the lawyers are always going to say, well, this is an exceptional case, and it's not going to apply here because there's abuse or whatever. So that's what the lawyers are going to do. So you still come up to have to present a case to demonstrate what's in the best interest of the child. And so this is the program that I'm going to talk about today, which is one of the programs that advocates can do to get underway. Any questions by anybody before I get started?
We'll have a little Q&A afterwards if you want to get into the presentation and share your screen.
Yeah, okay. Now I'll just hopefully get see if I can get.
Vernon, can I ask what committee you said you were on? I missed that.
Well, I was, when you say committee, again, I was part of the working group back in 1998 that helped get the hearings. I worked with Senator Ann Cools and Roger Galloway, personally got to know them and worked with some of the lawyers who were involved in getting for the sake of the report that advocated and got that whole thing together many years ago. So it wasn't so much, I would say, a formal committee, but there was a working group per se of advocates across Canada. And we worked closely with Senator Ann Cools and Roger Galloway, who were the chairpersons of that group. Probably I think it was back in 1998. And that was the largest, I guess, group ever put together as far as joint Liberal and Conservative members of the Parliament at that point in Canadian history. Okay, and that went right across the Canada. So I was involved in the infancy of the shared parenting and equal parenting movement.
Okay.
Certainly believe in it, but as I said, no matter what you look at it, the courts are going to decide on the best interest of the child. Even with shared parenting legislation, even with equal parenting legislation, the lawyers are going to probably get the phrase in rebuttable presumption. Okay, so rebuttable presumption, even though it's in law, it's rebuttable if there are circumstances that make it not applicable in a case. So anyone's going to make false allegations. So the idea is how do you make a presentation that's going to show that it's in the best interest of the children? And this is where parents and advocates can help in that regard, is becoming educated and trained how to do that. And I'll get into one of the programs. I've worked as a parent coordinator for 25 years. I've been a supervised access supervisor at a court recognized child protection supervised access center. I mean, I've done all this stuff over the years. We've supervised access programs and training for supervised access people in our organization. But moving on here for time, let me just see if I can get I'm going to see if I can get the right screen here. I'm going to see if this is the correct one here. Now, and I'm not sure how it's showing up on you guys. Are you guys seeing this?
I'm seeing it, Vernon. It looks great. Yep.
Okay. Is everybody seeing where it says Parenting Coordination Family Support Program?
Yep.
Yep.
Looks good.
Okay. So this is the kind of the outline of the document that's been prepared to kind of outline the program. It's called the Parenting Coordination and Family Support Program. And this is a document that's been made up. So this is kind of the title of it. And basically, it's going to be difficult for me to go through every page, but the idea is to give an outline, and we can send a copy over this and you guys can distribute. But basically, it talks about the background. And it's been basically put together through volunteers and that in here in Ontario. We have been using it, okay, and it's working. So the idea is this is a document that's designed to actually give to an MPP or to if a judge or a lawyer was asking about, well, what did you people come up with and where are you getting this to do? It's to provide support for advocates. So there's a background to it. Talks about the fundamental principles of the program. So, and again, I won't go through every one, but basically it talks about, the rights of children. Children have rights, both parents to be given up the opportunity to parent. Some of the basic things that we know about what's in the best interest of the child. So what's the principles behind this program? That people who are promoting this program and working under, what are the principles they believe in? And that's what they have to support in their work that they do. So anybody who's going to be working in the program and providing services, they have to acknowledge that if I'm under this program, these are what I believe. So you guys can independently, when you have time, is to go through. One of the key things about the program is that, and I'm looking at number 14 here, and can everybody read it okay? Is it big enough to read?
I can't
can
read
see
it,
it, yep.
but I can see it
You can,
generally.
if you expand it a little bit to, I guess, maybe 100%, so this way it's much more visible, we might,
Okay, let me just see if I
There you
can
go.
do that. Okay.
much better.
Okay, one of the key things this program is built around is under the basis, and it says number 14 here, that parents and children affected by family separation should be afforded the support which will help them resolve their conflict with minimal involvement of the adversarial family court system. And if you read, this is a quote from one of the former judges in the Supreme Court of Canada, and I actually met him personally up in Ottawa years ago. I have photographs that I took personally with him, but this is his quote. Basically, access to justice does not mention courts, lawyers, does not mention courts or lawyers. Justice doesn't take courts and lawyers. All it takes is people having access to services that they need to meaningfully address their particular problems. So if you want to get justice, you don't need to go to court. You don't need a judge. You don't need lawyers. All you need is to know what services are going to bring that. And of course, that was his quote when he was one of the judges on the Supreme Court of Canada, basically saying people in the community can help people, what it boils down to. And of course, there's another article here that's put in here that was from the, I think it's from the Globe and Mail newspaper at the time. Basically, the family court system is broken. And I think we all know that. That's pretty common knowledge today, right across every province. And I could pull out all kinds of other articles, but for the sake of this document, without making it too lengthy, we probably could make a whole document just on complaints about the system and how it's broken from newspaper articles. But basically, this is just kind of a brief summary of the founding principles. It's there to support the community. Again, this outlines the rights of children of separated families, things that most of us know, but it's been put into writing so that if you are going to be advocates, are going to be using this program, and someone says, who the hell are you? What kind of guidelines do you work under? Because we do know that people who are providing, say, custody and access assessments and lawyers and arbitrators, they're going to argue against people trying to do help families without going to court and without having all these high-priced services. They're going to argue as to qualifications because they want to keep it in the area where everybody's making a lot of money and they have control. So basically, one of the other things is the rights of children. And again, I won't go through each one of these individually. You can read it when I share the document, but basically it talks about the rights of children to be able to be heard, to be able to have a relationship with both parents without being manipulated, and the right to participate here in number 16, The right to be able to contact the other parent, here in number 17. Here's one here, the right to be listened to by legal authorities and to have their wishes and preferences made known in a court of law. As we know, a lot of children are suppressed. Sometimes one parent will prevent the children from being interviewed or spoken to because they don't want the child's wishes and preferences to be known. Another thing, for the child to be listened to and assisted by competent third parties who wish to assist without prejudice or bias in favor of or against either the parent. So in other words, there should be fair and unbiased services provided to that child here. And anyways, those are the rights. And of course, we've come up with what we consider to be the best interests of the child, which is what all court decisions relating to children are based upon. So again, this type of information is going to be used should you be in court, should you be asked before a judge or before some kind of professional organization asking, well, what are you people all about? Well, this is to answer another question this is the rights of children that will be taken into consideration. So when people are in conflict and you're trying to come up with what is going to be in their best interest as far as a court order, these are actually the facts that you should be considering. Okay. And I think we have a checklist somewhere that you can actually review a parenting plan, or you can review the request of a particular parent in a court case to see, does it comply with the best interests of a child? Okay, so all these things can get into, here's an example, number 8, do parties, do they have the ability to provide food and shelter, clothing without, and provide care? Sometimes you'll get people who are on welfare, okay, they don't work, okay, and they're relying on social assistance when they can work. So again, that might be one of the factors to consider, okay? It could be argued, well, what kind of an example and role model is being set for a child when you have a parent who doesn't want to work, okay, clearly can work, and is sitting there deciding that they're going to go on welfare and they don't want to work, okay? Not that that might be justified, but when you compare one parent versus the other, it could be one of the factors. They're demonstrating a parent who is out there, has got a good job. They're working, promoting a volunteer, or I should say a good role model for the child. Maybe they're demonstrating, cooperating in the community, volunteering their efforts with volunteer organizations. These kind of people are setting a good role model to the children. So that's just one of the things that take into consideration. Again, number 8 is likelihood of exposure of the child to unlawful or immoral influences. Again, children need to be protected from this kind of thing. I'm dealing with a case right now, and I interviewed a couple of young kids. One of them was only 7.5, where the mother and her boyfriend they had a pornographic business going on the internet. Okay, very graphic stuff. Live videos of stuff going on. Quite a show, and available on the internet. And these kids, and it was going on inside the home while the children were present. Okay, so pretty scary stuff. So again, these are factors. So again, I'll not go through them all, but you can read them when you get this document. Number 20, the moral fitness of the parties. Again, are they, do they have morals that are accepted by the community? You can get all kinds of crazy people out there. So these would be considered when you get up, down there. These are things that would be considered as elements determining the best interests of the child. These can be incorporated into checklists so that when you do an analysis of a case, you can actually check off as you go. Now, moving in, it talks about under the program, what are some of the support persons that would work, that be part of the program. So we've just briefly described some of these people here. It basically sets out that under the program, you're going to get what's referred to as family support workers. So these are the individual advocates who will work with the family. They do not need to be psychologists. They don't need to be lawyers. They're just people from the community who are trained in some of the basic things, knowing about separation and divorce. So they understand about the best interest, and basically what they do is they work with each of the parents. Now, the way we work it out is that you always have two people. So if you have a call from somebody, then you'll set up a network of two people who work together. If both parents kind of want to participate, then each parent will have a worker that will work with them. Okay. And one support person will not communicate with the other worker's parent privately. If anything, both of the workers can communicate maybe on a three-way, which would be okay. But each worker will kind of collect information from their own worker to remove this element of bias. Okay, that's the idea. So immediately we're bringing in two people. They can collect information twice as fast. They can remove the element of bias because you've got two trained advocates. Now, there even is, when you get into the actual process of the program, for instance, if one of the parents says, I have a parent coordinator who's licensed in my community, and I would like to have them as my support worker, this is acceptable as well. They will pay that person. So the fees associated with that person would be fine. And if they want a license that they're paying $200 to $300 an hour for, they're welcome to do that. But under the program, they can choose just someone from the community who's been trained by a group or whatever, like you people. You could have people who would simply be there to help gathering information and coming up with a solution. And if someone doesn't trust that idea, you can have them, they can bring their own person in. But that person will still be working with someone else. And so that's where you temper and minimize any bias, because there's going to be two people coming up with recommendations. So those basically are kind of goes along. There's what we've referred to as family support workers. If you've got parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, they're welcome to be part of what's called a support team. So they can look at parenting plans. They can look at recommendations that the group pulls together. And one of the things that we have, for instance, is we have parenting templates. When they're completed, we just kind of updated one for summer parenting plan for the summer. Well, you can actually send that parenting plan that the support workers have pulled together. That parent can take that parenting plan, and there is an endorsement form that the grandparents, aunts and uncles, families who know the kids, there's actually a form that they can sign and acknowledge that they have read the parenting plan and they approve it. So sometimes when you have a parent who's up against a narcissist, you suddenly have a whole bunch of people coming in supporting, the person who's trying to do what's right and show that it's in the best interest. And so that's what the parenting plan support workers are. There are people in the program that could be specifically helping them do parenting planning guides. Is there anybody not familiar with the parenting plan and template from the Association of Family Conciliation Courts? Anybody not familiar with that? I don't see any nays there, but this is quite a recognized way to do parenting plans. They give you a template and there's a guide. And now we've developed our own template that goes beyond what they've got. And yeah, we've developed templates that advocates can use to even create a better plan, and they've got more comprehensive to cover more issues. But these are the things that the advocates who are going to be helping parents do that would can show that this is our training. You know, these are put together by some of the best people in the country, and it's part of an organization that where a lot of judges and family court professionals are members of. I myself am a member of the AFCC. And they do have some very good training materials. There's educational videos, a lot of good stuff on there. Now, going beyond that, there's as part of the program that you can get into what we are developing, and I'd like to, maybe there might be people within your group that might want to be part of what we refer to as a advisory group, who could actually review and endorse parenting plans that are put together by, going back to the workers, the family support workers. When they've produced a parenting plan, then it'll go down. If necessary, we can actually get endorsements from people in not only in that community, but from across Canada. So say, for instance, we have Batman, Christopher, okay? We could actually send you a parenting plan that you don't know the people. All you see is you see this parenting plan, you would review it, and as a advocate in Canada, you could actually sign an agreement form saying that you have read it over, and based on the information that you've read, that you believe that this is would be in the best interest of the children. So if someone is trying to go to court and they're trying to present this as a good parenting plan, whether it's to a psychologist or to the court, suddenly these people are seeing that there's all kinds of people who are supporting this, people who have knowledge. So that puts pressure for accountability. And that's some of the things that we do. And of course, the program manual states how other people fit in, you know, how lawyers fit in. Yes, lawyers still play a role. They're not part of the program, but if when we finish doing a parenting plan, if you want to take it up to your lawyer to have it looked at, then fine. You know, get some consultation with your lawyer with it. If you have social workers, you can take it over to them, have them review it. You can bring anybody you want in, because the quality of the work and the quality of the work that's being done are going to meet the standards of the best interests. They're going to be well put together. They're going to meet the finest standards that can be put together to demonstrate the best interests of the children. So that's kind of the first part of the manual is to show. Now, moving on, this is the original group that approved this back, that started back in 1998. Remember, I told you this program started, it was called the Family Assistance and Parent Support Program back in 1998. It had many of the same founders. These are the people, and the Parent Support Program, what you're looking at right now, is a modification to that because it focuses on parenting coordination primarily. These are the people who formally signed up in writing to our program, the founding program back in 1998. And these were highly recognized people from all over, across, mostly in Ontario. Some of them were from, I think, far away from even British Columbia. I think one of the lawyers was from British Columbia, if I'm not mistaken. But even writers, social workers, these were just the professionals. Now, we want to get in regards to the this program, the Parenting Coordination and Family Support Program. It incorporates all the basic elements of the original family support, but focusing on parenting coordination only. We want to build another updated professional advisory group on this program only. So you guys may know somebody who's an actual professional, social worker, doctor, psychologist, and there are lawyers who will support it. You know, if you know some good lawyers who know that they're trying to help, that's all they do is they would look over this manual that I'm going over with you right now. And all they would do would be to sign an endorsement form that they've read the manual and they think it's a good idea. And then they would sign on a form. Now, moving on to answer the questions, here they are about the program. Okay, what is it? Okay, and basically, one of the key things, it's a fully voluntary, community-based alternative dispute resolution process specifically designed for families going through the process of family separation and who are experiencing, it's supposed to be the word difficulties in there because this is just a draft right now that we've got. So we're going to, certainly it should be experiencing difficulties over the parenting of their children. And it's basically designed to be affordable, okay, than most of these high-priced ADR services. In other words, because it's community-based, you're using people from the community as opposed to people who have a business, okay? Is a court order required? No. A lot of people have the impression, well, we've got to go to court to get an assessment. No, nobody needs a court order. As long as it's got the consent of the parties, you're fine. Okay, so court order is not required. Okay. But a court order can be obtained, forcing parties to attend the introductory information program for the program. So we do offer a Zoom conference where parties will come on and they can get all their answers to about the program question before they sign in. So because it is completely voluntary. So is the participation of both parties required? Yes. Okay, so people have to both agree if they're actually going to be formally using the program. Now, as we know, there could be a narcissist or people who are out there who are not going to approve. And we've answered that. We'll answer that later on. But the idea is, and quite often you'll get both parties will approve, but later on, one of them may want to drop out because things aren't going their way. That sometimes happens. So, but the idea is if you initially get them in, okay, and it just describes what the overall objective of the service is. It, of course, is to work solutions, save money, and to be effective. Okay, and this talks about the free consultation. So basically, when you're trying to offer these services, you have a Zoom consultation. So you're making it easy, whether it's for a lawyer or someone who's trying to argue, well, you know, against the program. You're saying, we're offering a free consultation. You know, we're not going to charge anything. They can come on. We'll answer their questions. So it makes it very difficult for people to argue against it because you're offering them maybe a 30-minute or half hour. There would be maybe 2 workers on there. They could probably even bring their lawyer on there. And all it'll focus on, what's your questions? Here's the program. But this question and answer sheet here kind of answers a lot of questions. And it talks about how is the program different? Well, when you get into it, it's flexible and it's saving money because we're not using licensed professionals. If you look down here in paragraph 2 here, we're not using licensed professionals, okay, as the key workers, although if people want to use a licensed professional, they can pay for that themselves, okay? And on top of that, not only is there going to be the group, but again, there would be a consultation group if needed to further endorse maybe the recommendations that the family support group may come up with. That's where it comes like people like you. If you have an advocate in your group who's helped to prepare a parenting plan, well, that parenting plan can be put out to other advocates in your group or other people you know, and all they do is read it. Maybe it's going to take them an hour of their time, but again, it gets back to, you know, the whole justice system is based on public involvement. That's why you think there's a public gallery in courtrooms. The idea was when you bring the public in, you're increasing the likelihood of justice and you're allowing the public to observe what's going on. Well, today, a lot of that has been lost because people can't afford to go over to the courthouse and stuff is going online. And so the idea is that when you have people who are agreeing, we've looked at the evidence and we agree, it's almost like bringing a jury in. So suddenly when the court looks at a parenting plan And suddenly he's looking at, well, Jesus, half the world has looked at this parenting plan and they've got criteria that they use. Suddenly the judge is looking at, I've got to go along with this because members of the public are saying it's good. And again, it gets on here. How does it save money? So again, it talks about you don't need to go to court. And it talks about where people don't need to be licensed. Okay. And it gets into why people are being expensive. Here are some ads right now. These were recently pulled out from the internet. A parenting coordinator, generally people are charging $400 to $500 per hour. Okay. You're from another organization here, $300 per hour. In most cases, people cannot provide that kind of services. And here is the other key thing that these services provide. Most of them provide a clause, and let me move down here to see if I've got it here. Most of these services that you get professionally, they have a lock-in clause. And if you get into arbitration, actually, when you sign up for these services, quite often they say that you sign up for maybe 12 months and you cannot get out. Quite often written right in there. You cannot get out. A lot of these contracts are basically say they can do whatever investigation is required, whether they want to call your doctor, call the other parent, call the Children's Aid Society worker. They can call anybody they want under their agreement with no limitation whatsoever, without prior consent. So what we're finding is that people are spending, sometime in the first 30 days, they're spending $5,000 to $10,000 each. Because you've got someone out there at $500 an hour and they can easily rack up 10 hours in one case in 30 days. And quite often they can rack up 10 or 20 hours very easily. So you'll find that, and some of them, they're asking for one of them is asking for $10,000 retainer fees. So they lock you into large retainer fees and high hourly fees that you cannot get out of. Okay. And that's where a lot of these professionals are basically destroying families. You can't even back out of it. So it gets into what other services that you get. And basically very similar to what you guys should already know. It's basically you are getting some services, okay? And one of the things under the program is that, again, ideally, when people agree that we'd like to provide your parenting coordinating service, you'll have a list of workers that they can select from. So if a lady, for instance, or mother wants to feels more comfortable with dealing with a woman, then you can appoint one of the female advocates to work with her, and the man can do the same thing. If he feels more comfortable with dealing with a man, so you end up with a support group that's a man and a woman, and again, minimizing the idea of any concept of bias, especially based on gender. And you always have two people who are going to be working together. And each of these people will get paid, again, whatever they want to charge. I mean, we've kind of, to make it community-based, people could charge $50 up to $100 an hour for their work. What we want to do is we get down here on this paragraph right here. I don't know if I can highlight it here, but basically in that paragraph there, we would like to get it as a start where parent coordinators would sign on with the program, and they would charge anywhere from approximately $100 a month. I've got some people right now where I'm charging them $100 a month, and all they get for that is simply phone consultation. So basically you're offering your information and support. You're doing nothing more than answering their phone call, answering their questions, giving them knowledge. You'll send them some links to some information, how to be a good parent, how the program works, how to do this, how to do that. So part of it, you're doing stuff where you're simply just talking on the phone help. Now, if they want Like here's a couple of the retainer agreements. You can see here, these are real agreements. An initial retainer of $5,000. That's for each parent. So between the two parents, this person is going to want 10 grand to start off. Okay. And you have no control. Okay, here you go, another one. Okay. Soon as your $5,000 runs out, as soon as it gets down to 500, you gotta give another 5,000. Most people can't even get to the end. And some of these, what these agreements say, you run out of money, you're broke. You can't pay it anymore. Some of these agreements actually state that if you run out of money, then the contract continues. And they will do two things. They will actually take the money from the other parent's account, if that parent has the ability to pay, or they will stop all services and you cannot take services from anybody else until you pay and bring your account up to date. So they can extend the ending date of that contract where you cannot go to court, because quite often you agree that you will not go to court. So basically now you're stuck in limbo because you're broke and you've already signed an agreement. A lot of people don't realize that. So this is where there's a lot of corruption, especially with arbitration, very dangerous. And I don't know about how much you guys know about arbitration, but I can later on send you some arbitration contracts or go over that on another show. But basically, the idea, we know there's a lot of corruption and overcharging and basically destroying people. How does the program ensure that there's no unexpected or hidden costs? Well, what we do here is we say, okay, you're going to pay a certain amount each money upfront. People were going to know. Ideally, we're trying to get $100 a month for each party to have one parent coordinator only for phone support. And then it moves up there, but everyone will be told there's nothing in the contract that's going to allow the support people just to go on and do whatever they want and automatically charge. If there's going to be any services that they say, well, we need to review your court case, we need to go in and speak to your doctor, they're going to be told, well, we estimate this is going to take another hour, it's going to cost you $100, a couple hours to do that. And or a parent may want you to look at some documents and the support worker can say, well, look, that's going to take me 2 or 3 hours to go through that OCL report or that clinical investigations report. Well, again, people will be told uphand, if you want us to do it, we can do it. If an advocate wants to do it for free, that's fine as well. It's going to be up between the advocate, and monies will be paid directly to the advocate from the parent they work with. Okay, it gets into what kind of support, what kind of training. Well, some of the key things that's out there, you can actually get training, and I think we've got the training videos in that that we can get. There's guidelines for parenting coordination. The American Psychological Association has guidelines for parenting coordination, all online. So these are some of the basic things that people who want to do parenting coordination and want to get into that providing services and can make money at it. They're not going to get rich, remember, but they can do it and certainly make enough money to help if they're at it at a part-time basis. And that's where it gets in. You're not bringing in lawyers, you're not bringing in psychologists to do what, a lot of it is just common sense, because a lot of the arguments that these parents have are going to be, oh, I'm not happy because he didn't send Johnny to school with a good lunch. Okay, he put a Snickers bar in there, and I think Johnny's getting too much sugar. So these are the common things that parents will actually call up their parent coordinator at $450 an hour to sort out. And we're saying, you don't need somebody at $400 an hour. Let's have them call another parent who's skilled to take care of all the minor stuff. Okay, getting on to, and again, I'll watch our time, but again, workers cannot provide legal advice. That's clear, so you don't get any trouble with the Law Society. If a lawyer working for me would impact, does this have, well, no, if you got a lawyer, The lawyer doesn't work with us directly, but you can check out what we're doing and have your lawyer check any of the work that we're providing. Okay, I'm concerned about bias. How does the worker minimize the potential for bias? Well, that's where we get back. Two workers, they get to choose whether they want a male or female. They can even bring their own person in if they want to pay that person themselves. Okay, and here's a case here where actually a mediator was arrested and actually was participating in a murder, okay, of one of the people, okay? And here's an article, Mr. Gene Coleman, if you know him, he's a well-recognized lawyer. I work with him. I know him personally, him and his family. But here's what he wrote, okay? He's saying that under many circumstances, it is often inconclusive and contradictory about what these assessments come up. And a lot of these work that these so-called professionals do on their own because they're working in secret, there's no transparency, there's no accountability. Yes, I'm sure most of you know that there are problems with these assessments. So the idea is that when you bring it out where there is reduce the bias, increase the accountability, things like that, you can reduce that. Talking about a child, okay? Through the program, we do voice of the child, okay? It can be done with somebody within your group. I can do voice of the child interviews with children anywhere in Canada. If any of you have clients who would like to get a voice of the child done, I can do it. But we want to get other people to do it, trained to do it. It only takes Zoom. And you can talk to child about what they want, what's going on, things like that. You may have, somebody may know of a family coach. Again, they can bring that coach in to work as their, on the support team. So each person gets to pick their own person if they know somebody, or they can pick a man or woman out from a list of advocates who are working within your group or people who you know. Okay. What happens if a support worker is assigned, is unable to continue? Maybe a support worker gets sick, dies, anything can happen. So basically the idea is you've got a list of support workers, and again, you go back to, and that information that's been gathered by the initial worker can be passed over to just another worker. Again, they can pick whether they want a male or a female, or bring another person, whatever. And again, does the program support the best interests of the children? I think I showed you in the first part of the document, there's a best interest of a document. And there's the rights of the children is covered in the first part. What jurisdictions? Again, it can provide any jurisdiction in Canada. The concept of parent coordinating, I think it's pretty well recognized in all jurisdictions, that concept. And it's just a matter of doing it competently and in a manner that is professional. Now, here's what happens when we get into people who are having difficulty. What if I don't agree? Well, again, the program is voluntary. A person can drop out at any time that they want. End of story. We're not forcing anybody. And if they've paid their $100 at the end of that month to that, that's it. No more charges, no more nothing. Now, what can be at that point? Okay. At that point, there are only two alternatives. They either have to go to court. Another alternative is binding arbitration. Okay. So the idea is if you can't get mutual consent, then back to the court is the process. And if the courts are backed up and you're looking at 6 months to get into court, you can go to binding arbitration. So that's where people could actually use binding arbitration on those unresolved issues. So basically the program ends, we're finished with our work, you don't want to participate anymore, we are not going to violate your rights to justice through the courts. You've got two options, court or what binding arbitrations, where that at that point, they've got to sign another agreement with a binding arbitrator and they're on their own at that point. Okay. One of the parties though, who doesn't agree and wants to go to court is still going to want to proceed, to gather evidence that's going to support them working in the best interest of the child, because that parent who backed out might be a narcissist. That's pretty common. Okay, so does the program uphold and protect the basic fundamental rights of the parties to seek? Yes, you can still go to court. Okay, here are cases where if you go to a professional, these are some of the cases where you can't back out. It says right here, these are contracts that people are being forced to sign right now. Here's from these are actual clauses within the last 30 days. The parents understand that unlike the process of mediation and other contexts, they are unable to withdraw from the process of parenting coordination. So some of the professionals who are putting themselves out as parenting coordinators, what they're doing is they're doing the same as arbitration. They're putting clauses in there that you are now forced. So they're tricking people. Parent coordinating is supposed to be voluntary. Here's another clause. Neither parent may unilaterally term the agreement. Okay, you've got to get the joint agreement of the other party if you both want to get out. And of course, if you're up against a narcissist, they don't want to get out of it because they know it's going to cost you more money. They want to just keep pushing you for money. So again, these are some of the clauses that are going on in real cases right now, and people don't understand it. I could give other workshops strictly on the hazards of mediation, mediation and arbitration, the dangers of it that people have to look out for. So again, if one parent withdraws and the other one wants to go on, does the program minimize the risk? Of course, it's all done through Zoom, emails, whatever. So you're eliminating contact. You can help again when child protection matters, because again, you're video recording, you're interviewing children, you're coming up with, you can help people with a plan of care. The children's aid agencies. Okay, so basically it just gives you the outline, the basic steps there. You start with a meeting, you get them to sign into agreement once they understand, you have the coordination team set up, you provide them with educational materials or send them out some documents about the harm to children, things like that. Basically, you just kind of get it underway there. And then you simply have this team that's asking them what's going on, what can we do to help, and working on solutions. And in the end, at step 7, you're hoping to come up with a parenting plan that would be approved, that could be approved by the court and would be professional. Okay. And that's what they would do if they go through the program. And during the program, if people need third-party mediators, actual parenting coordinators who are licensed, there'd be a list that could be provided. We could provide court support services, that may be paralegals, whatever. Sometimes we can provide letter writing services. These are all outside services that the parenting coordinating services can just provide. And there may be people in your group who are good at writing letters, because some people can't write letters to work. So video recorded voice of the child interviews, parenting plan reviews, parenting plan assessment services. These are all things that can be referred out, that go beyond, in a sense, more detail. Child custody assessment, like I'm trained to do child custody assessments. I've received training to do that. But again, I wouldn't do that as a parent coordinator, because parent coordinator is there to work for both parents. So if people want to do that, then the idea is that the group can refer the people. So basically it gets into, there's a page here that summarizes the benefits of this. And again, I won't go through them all. You can read that when you get a hard copy of it. But basically it starts off with, it's going to reduce costs significantly, less time, does not commit parties to binding contact, no upfront retainer fees required. Simply we're hoping that we can get the program where people are going to be paying us $100 up between $100 and $300 to start off, maybe to review, get it going, and then they pay a monthly fee, depending on what service they actually need. So again, this is to outline what are the services that the parenting coordinators would do. So personal help, monitoring of compliance to an agreement. So if parents aren't showing up on time, parents aren't allowing telephone calls, these are things that would be reported and noted in. And of course, the parenting coordinator would call the other parent and say, what's going on? You know, you're supposed to have the child here. So the usual monitoring, educational, we've got a lot of education materials that when there is a problem, you'll feed that parents with that information, help solve the problem so they better understand it. Just general issues, helping them understand parenting plans, exchanging children, special agreements, knowing all these just little things, you know. How do you make exchanges? What are the different ways when there's conflict? One of the ways I suggest sometimes you have them meet at McDonald's. One parent goes to McDonald's, they get lunch for the kid, then the other parent comes into McDonald's. They're in a public setting. Chances are one parent's not going to do anything when all these people are around. Then the first parent leaves the parking lot, leaves the child with the first parent, and that parent finishes off lunch. So you as an advocate or as a parent coordinator are going to know these various techniques, what to do for different circumstances. So that's what you're doing. And basically, you're helping to get children's wishes and preferences, how to communicate, whether you do email, whether you get people to do Zooms, whatever. Teaching people how to record Zoom calls, things like that. How to promote healthy relationships, things like that. Communication, domestic violence. So basically, a lot of it's just education, provide parents with personal help and support over issues involving threats, intimidation, coercive control. These are things that parent coordinators do. And chances are when people are looking and they know there's a parent coordinator now watching, even when you have a parent who's trying to be nasty and a narcissist, quite often they're going to modify and correct their behaviors because they know other people are watching them now. And that's one of the key things of having a parenting coordinating program. Everyone knows it modifies the behavior in a positive way. But I think that's basically that's kind of the document, and I can get it out to you people for you to look at more details.
Vernon, could we maybe take one or two questions so we have it, because we're kind of running out of time, and then
Yeah, by all means, I'm here. Give me your questions then. Let me
I
get
have
back
one
to
question.
let me stop the screen sharing here, or do you want me to leave the screen sharing on if I have to move up there?
You can stop the screen share.
Okay.
I sent you a follow-up email, and so I will talk about getting this document out to our board.
Yeah.
But I just want to make one comment, actually. I'm just going to
Well,
share
let me say one thing before you start too. One thing that I'm hoping to get the board is that I'd like the board to review the documents, and what we'd like to do is to get the board, if they can provide a letter saying that they have reviewed it, and as an organization, they would endorse this as a valuable tool to help children and families facing separation and divorce. That's
yes,
all
and
we're
we're
after.
definitely going to, yeah,
Yeah,
we're
that's
going to be
what we're
working on
after
that.
as a start. So, okay, what are your questions?
Well, I just have a comment. We have recently done, like, what my goal to have you here today was actually to integrate your program into our organization and give it a platform and then fill in some of the gaps for volunteers and networks that you need to build. But we have done some work creating logos, and so I was thinking of recruiting for your program. Like, we need family justice committees across this whole country for this, obviously, like localized family justice communities for the community to review the parenting plans. And we also need to train people on voice of the child report based on your standards that you have for the standard of care for the children. But I was thinking, we have this logo design. I just wanted to share it with you. And I was wondering if you would think about this logo as something to represent your program. Let me just share my screen with you. Screen share. You can see my screen. This is it, actually. Yeah, so I wanted to use this logo to represent the programming aspect, and I would really like to use use your knowledge to influence our programming for the Family Justice Committees, according to, and also do Voice of the Child report that you could do training for. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
Now probably again, the issue when you start using the term parental alienation, that's one of the things that, of course, people
Well, we
are.
would take this out, take this part out,
Yeah.
but just have the logo for the programming for
We'd have,
families.
well, we'd have to look at, because again, that logo might be specific to your organization, and we're trying to create, what I would probably suggest is that your program can train and have people that with your program that are trained to do parenting coordination. Probably
Yes, that's what we want.
one of
Yeah.
the best things is that if you have if you have even one or two people who would like to provide those services as quickly as possible, then what I would offer is that we can get them on and to get them trained. And if they want to do parenting coordination, a program and your organization is sponsoring that, and they want to do it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Is that
Okay.
that would be
Yeah.
some training, and all you need is to find a case or a couple, a case to start. That's all you need. Find somebody out in your province, your area, and we can help you to get them going through that case and to handle it as parent coordinators. Okay. And
Yep.
ideally, you're trying to get a case where hopefully you can get two people who who want to participate. You're going to get a mom and a dad who aren't that far along and they haven't, committing domestic violence and that, but a case that's not too serious, where you at least are going to get mom and dad. Maybe they want to get a summer parenting plan together, and that's how you get do something where you're going to get some good work done. Like I've got some good recommendation letters, even within the last week. I get people, I've had recommendation letters going back 25 years, even from kids. I've got kids who send me their letters thanking me for helping them get out of and helping their families. So the idea is if you can get them a couple support letters. But yes, if you have people who would like to do parenting coordination right now under what our program, I'd be glad to
And
get
Voice of
them.
the Child as well, yes. Let's
Yeah.
take one more question. Take one more
Yeah.
question for Vernon, because we do have to get on to our meeting. And then I'd like to organize a committee at some point to address how we can start implementing Vernon's training and programs into our organization. So does anybody have a question?
I did, but I think the voice of the child, um, I'm really interested in learning about the voice of the child myself.
Yeah,
But like,
so
learning
Uh,
just
uh,
answered.
yeah, as I said, the learning about doing the voice of the child is is not an easy task.
Mhm.
Okay, what I would probably, if anybody is interested in that, yes, we don't have I do have a training, not a full training program together on that, but what I would suggest you do if you're the parenting coordinating program is probably one of the most effective ways, because it gets you right into the court. It's an acceptable. One of the first things that people are going to try if they're trying to get in voice of the child is going to be your professional accreditation. They are going
Okay.
to be, well, you haven't got that training, things
And
like
that's
that.
what I was wondering about, was the training piece, like, what are the accreditations that are required for voice of the child? Is there
Well,
some, do you have to be?
there really are no what did I say, recognized accreditation. Usually what the professional organizations such as psychologists say, they just kind of say, well, you should be a professional such as a psychologist and that, whatever. Because a lot of the voice of the child are not done video. That's why I say you don't need a professional as long as you've got a voice of the child done in a manner that there can be no questioning as to the type of questions that you've asked. No leading, no suggestive questions be asked, and that there is some training that you've taken. Yes, you can do a Google, do some voice, you can do voice of the child, see what some of the latest stuff is. You might find some stuff on the internet. There's stuff out there.
Vernon, I have a
Yeah.
question, but could if we had it as an organization, like we had like a certification program that we implemented, and then we could like we could you know, have you help us create some sort of certification through, or that's what I would like to do, and then make sure that it all meets up to the standards that you, standard of care for children that you've started. That's what I would like to do. What do you think
Yeah.
about us doing a certification?
Well, that would be fine, and I would probably say you could, again, start with the parenting coordination. It's
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
one of the most,
But
you
as
could
in long
actually,
term,
you could actually get you onto creating a training program, and then your organization can actually do the training for people who contact you. And
yes.
yes, we could probably make up a training certificate that would be by your organization. So it would be signed by an executive member, a nice 8.5 by 11 certificate that you could give to people, that people, yes, that could be done. And you could
Okay,
do that, you could do it under your logo, and I think that would be an excellent way to probably start.
okay. Well, I'm gonna end the recording now, if that's okay. And then I will save the recording of everything that Vernon's done today, and I'll send that around, and we can have another meeting and more discussion.